The cabin door flew inward so hard the hinges cried, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with a quiet man in a gray suit, while a folder of evidence lay open between us when the woman who'd been terrorizing our neighborhood marched in, waving papers like a sword, and declared an emergency seizure. She had no idea who she'd just barged in on, and by the time she figured it out, the handcuffs were already sitting on the table waiting for her. My name is Mark Dalton, and if you had told me a year ago that my grandfather's cedar cabin on Cedar Hollow Lake would go from being my last safe place to the stage where I learned how to stop apologizing for breathing, I would have laughed once and gone back to sanding the dock rails. But life is funny like that. It waits until you're tired, and then it asks if you're done being scared. The place isn't fancy. It creaks when the wind shifts. It smells like coffee and pine shavings. The dock leans just enough to keep you humble, and when my daughter Lila comes for our weekends, she takes off down those boards. Like joy got its legs back, fishing rod in one hand, 1,000 questions in the other. That's the part that kept me human. The first knock from the HOA hit at 6:59 a.m., like a dare. 3 hard raps, no good morning in them. And when I opened the door, there she stood. Linda Whitmore, Willow Shore, HOA president. Clipboard, shining phone, already recording smile that never reached her eyes. Good morning, Mr. Dalton. She sang non-compliant dock extension and unauthorized flagpole. Initial fine $500 per day until you fix it. And when I said the dock had sat there since my granddad used a borrowed hammer. And stubbornness. She rolled right over me. Time doesn't legalize hazards. And then, like she was reading a script, she tilted the camera and asked if I was on medications we should document. Because my hands trembled just enough to make a story. You know what I mean by lunch. She'd wallpapered the street with flyers dressed up to look official. Safety alert in big letters. A cropped photo of me, mid-blink. A paragraph that said nothing and everything. And that night, my daughter called, whispering from her mom's kitchen. Dad, kids at school say you had an episode, and I had to swallow the kind of silence that tastes like metal before I told her we'd fish on Saturday, and the bluegill didn't care about gossip. I tried reasonable at first. I wrote emails, asking for the ordinance number and the appeal process in return. I got a courtesy notice about trash suspension, a warning about my trailer blocking a community view corridor, a suggestion that water could be shut off if non-compliance persisted. Linda knows exactly which levers to pull when somebody looks tired. Yeah, that happened. The man she brought to measure my boundary. Evan Ruiz wouldn't meet my eyes. He whispered that she had leverage on him. Back taxes and a license she could help take away. And the longer he talked, the more the ground under my fence line felt like it was moving later that night. I pulled out an old photo of the cabin from the 80s and held it against the window, and my stomach dropped. The marker stone in the picture didn't line up with the current fence. The angle to the oak was off. Subtle, like a magician's hand. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then came the cafeteria show. You know that fluorescent buzz that makes everyone look guilty. Linda stood under it with a slideshow and a voice that sweetened bad facts. We care about families and values, she said, while clicking through charts about property values, dropping near non-compliant structures. Then she read an incident log, with my name on it, like she was calling a storm down. A father asked if children were safe walking by my place, and Linda folded her hands like a saint. We aren't fear-mongering, she said, while fear filled the room like smoke. I stood and offered to answer any question directly. No one asked. Cups were very interesting that night. The next week, a dark blue sedan rolled into my gravel drive. A man stepped out with a calm that wasn't bored. "Hark, I'm Caleb from the state office," he said. Not naming the department, his questions were sharp. Had I received notices outside HOA scope, observed boundary changes? Ever heard of North Point Properties, LLC? When I said no, he slid a printout of property transfers that made something cold run down my back document. Everything he told me at the door. And if this escalates, call me first. That evening, Evan came back with a cardboard banker's box and the look of a man who decided truth would cost less than secrets inside. Were fake-looking corrections, survey overlays, copies of checks from North Point to his company, sticky notes in Linda's precise handwriting, labeling neighbors as pliable or combative or elderly and unaware. He told me she called it an emergency safety easement and promised the company would make it right later. "It's a shell," he said. I told myself I was just measuring lines. But it's not lines. It's people. The Willow Shore barbecue should have been potato salad and raffle tickets. Instead, I spread those maps on a folding table and said the word theft. In a voice that didn't ask permission, I pointed to the Henderson lot and showed how 15 feet vanished into an easement. Feeding North Point tapped misses, chose parcel, and the drainage that relocated her shed phones came out. People snapped photos. Evan stood beside me and owned what he'd done. Linda tried to smile with her teeth while saying defamation and routine corrections. But the crowd wasn't buying it like before, not after they saw the lines on paper that matched the lines in their gut. She went live the next day on the Neighborhood Watch page. The ring light reflected in her pupils like it was the truth. She said immediate possession, like she was ordering lunch. She held up papers with stamps that looked like arts and crafts, and when a commenter asked who owned North Point, she said, the quiet part proudly. "North Point is my development firm. We've invested heavily to raise values, and the comments turned into screenshots moving faster than lies." That afternoon, a Sheriff Tahoe traced my road. Slow, Evan called to say the plate on the blue sedan belonged to an executive fleet, not a county clerk. An hour later, a neighbor overheard Linda on speaker in her driveway getting told, "Ma'am, this is the Attorney General's office, and Linda actually said she was handling local matters, and this was not a good time." You can't make that up. The next morning, I got my own gut punch certified mail from the court. My ex petitioning to suspend visitation because father's involvement with a criminal investigation poses risk to minor child. I stared at Lila's crayon drawing on the fridge and wanted to give up quietly. Then I remembered Caleb's card. He didn't do comfort. He did plan 2 o'clock your table, he said. Bring everything at 200 on the dot. He set a slim binder beside my messy pile tabs, like little doorways. To a reckoning when she arrives. Let her talk, he said. Don't argue. Don't block. Let her claim everything, and at 2:15. Gravel popped. Linda strode in with a navy suit and a leather briefcase and a process server, who looked like his stomach regretted his choices. She announced a court-ordered seizure and requested a state witness, then turned and saw one sipping coffee at my table. Caleb read her packet like it could wait, then looked up. Ms. Whitmore. I'm not county. Code enforcement, he said. She blinked like someone dimmed the lights. Then who are you? And he opened a leather case. Caleb Monroe, Wisconsin Attorney General, and the whole room learned how silence can get heavy. He walked through her money trail. Transfers from North Point to Evans' outfit, aligned with boundary corrections, paused on printed screenshots from her live stream, where she declared authority without a court order and claimed North Point as her own. She dialed Tom in county planning and got his voicemail to stop calling because he'd been cooperating for 8 months, and that took the last color out of her face. She lunged for the binder like paper bleeds when it tells the truth. I caught her wrist on instinct. She laughed hard and ugly and said she'd spent 20 years building this, while people like me wasted land. And pity Caleb stood and said the words I'd been waiting to hear since the first flyer hit my mailbox. Linda Whitmore, you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, trespass, and obstruction. And the click of the cuffs didn't sound like punishment to me. It sounded like oxygen. After that, the air changed. Neighbors drifted back with casseroles and apologies. The Hendersons measured their 15 feet and laughed in the grass. Evan started over. Clean, my ex texted that she was sorry, and the judge restored our schedule. Lila ran down the dock again, calling me stubborn. Which is fair, and on most days, the lake went back to being a place where I could hear my heartbeat without bracing for a hit that never came. Then, a Tuesday night rang wrong. I picked up to a calm voice saying, "You took my sister's life apart, click." And a week later, I saw a figure across the water at the tree line. Binoculars catching the last light once before they vanished. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's the next chapter, but I know the sound a cuff makes when it closes, and the way it feels to get your name back from a rumor. And I know this too. People who hide behind rules to hurt others count on your shame to keep you quiet. So if someone like Linda has been poking holes in your life, you're allowed to speak up, to ask for help, and to fight smart. And if you were me, would you have gone public sooner, or tried to win quietly? Like I did, where's the line between protecting a neighborhood and controlling it? Tell me in the comments. Argue with me. Share what you've seen with HOAs, good or bad. And if this hit a nerve like the video, send it to the friend who needs proof. They're not crazy, and stick around for the next one.